Thank you very much for everybody who's attending this late late afternoon session today. We were intensively talking about travel and how to reduce carbon emissions in the session before, and now we want to introduce a method, the carbon offsetting system of our university, which has started just years ago. And we want to use this session for discussing with everybody about pros and cons of carbon offsetting projects, how they look like in the future, and yeah, getting your idea on them. So the agenda for right now is, which will be led by Adam Pawloff and myself, is that we introduce us, that we really briefly talk about the carbon offsetting system of our university and also the carbon offsetting project. Then we will have a short Q&A and feedback session about the presentations, and then we would like to start a pro and con dialogue regarding what is good in terms of carbon offsetting, how projects should look like. And hello Stuart, I saw you coming in. At the slide, just giving a short overview of our next session here. Yes, so this pro and con dialogue, Adam and myself have prepared just to give you the common pros and arguments, so that we then have a good fruitful discussion on carbon offsetting and carbon offsetting projects. And then we would like to conclude with everybody, so maybe we can find a nice result in terms of what could be good criteria for carbon offsetting projects. So Adam, may I ask you to give a short word on yourself?
Yeah, I'd be very happy to. So my name is Adam. I'm working here at the Center for Global Change and Sustainability at the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna. That's quite a mouthful, I know. I'm a political scientist by training, but I've spent quite a number of years working on issues of sustainability. I also head an NGO with some friends working on various different issues. In terms of these kind of questions, I've been coordinating the project Climate Friendly Climate Research for the last year, which forms the background, or the backdrop, let's say, to this conference, and was also involved in setting up with Dominic and other colleagues the carbon offsetting system at university. And yeah, carbon offsetting is something I'd have to say I'm sort of ambivalent about, and I'm sort of, you know, I think yeah, I think there are pros, there are cons, and I'm really interested just to see how the discussions, and also to hear what our audience has to say. Thank you, Dominic.
Just a brief word to myself. So I studied environmental science in Austria, in Graz.
And Dominic, sorry for interrupting. Could you please take your microphone a little bit closer?
Yeah.
You're very low.
It's better now?
No, it doesn't help. I think it doesn't help, because yes, you have switched the internal microphone of your computer, so you should get closer to your computer.
I see. I will fix it later on. Yes, so I will get closer to the computer while introducing myself. So after studying, I worked more than now 7 years in the global carbon market, in the international climate policy. So doing CDM projects, voluntary carbon projects, and also consult work, the last years for projects in Indonesia and Mexico. And then here at the university, I supported to build up the carbon offsetting system, yes, and supporting the university itself on greening the campus and the research. So that is basically for myself. I hope the microphone is better now. David, can you give me a feedback? It's fine. Yeah. So
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, probably before we start our presentation directly, we would like to ask your opinion on carbon offsetting. So we have prepared a short poll. where you please type in your views on carbon offsetting. While doing this, Adam will start with the first slides of the presentation and also on our approach towards carbon offsetting. Please.
Yeah, thank you, Dominic. I'm just going to try and adjust this poll window so we have a fairly even split there by the looks of things. Okay, so we're going to, as Dominic said, just sort of give a brief input in terms of the carbon offsetting system which we've set up here at university. And I'd like to start by giving a little bit of background on the system. So I think one of the there was quite a number of ideas which motivated this. Sort of one of them relating to projects themselves, particularly within the CDM, but also within the voluntary market, of obviously a major lack of sustainability in carbon offsetting. You know, we've seen it in the Clean Development Mechanism, lots of N2O and HFC projects. Another point that the Clean Development Mechanism is also meant to be fulfilling some sort of development function. But over 70% of the projects are in China and India, and I think it's something like 2% of the projects actually take place in Africa. And also projects don't. There's a lack of participation, there's a lack of social standards, but also ecological standards. So they focus purely on the carbon offset issue rather than looking at other possible benefits as well. And then on the level of the university, on the one hand, this issue that we have a lot of research projects at university which A, have mitigation potential, but B, the projects themselves are only short-term to medium-term and can potentially be extended, quite apart from the fact forest ecology in LDCs, particularly Horn of Africa, for example, is one of the focus regions of our university. And so from this background, we said, well, we have quite a lot of potential in terms of actually projects, very good sort of projects that could be further supported through carbon finance mechanisms, but obviously these need to be financed. Well, they need to be selected from the backdrop of sort of very stringent criteria. So I've listed the criteria here. I'm not going to go through it all, but sort of one of the aspects is that projects need to be from LDCs. So this development aspect is actually fulfilled. Obviously, they need to be transparent, and I think the sort of our main point which we'll be making is that projects need to have multiple impacts. So sort of from the research university side, sort of next to carbon offsetting, there needs to be this sort of stimulation of research and or teaching and training, but also there need to be multiple co-benefits. So there needs to be inclusion of ecological, social and economic sustainability aspects. So for example, issues such as, say, biodiversity protection, soil preservation, but then also participation and regional value creation, and a high level of social responsibility within these projects. And to sort of make sure that these criteria are also fulfilled, the way we sort of approach the projects is we have a science and policy advisory board, which is made up of individuals from the university themselves, as well as a number of sort of other institutions here in Austria, including the Development Bank, the Development Agency, but also NGOs, the Ministry of Environment, and so on, who on the one hand sort of provide scientific monitoring of the system itself, but also quality control with regard to the CO2 methodology of projects, and also the selection of projects themselves. And I'll hand over to Dominic just to go briefly into our first carbon offset project.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Probably one word to the advisory board. So that was a decision by us that we didn't want to have the verification mechanism like you find in the voluntary carbon market or in the CDM, because it's really expensive having them. So that's why we said it's cheaper and also gives a good truth to our projects if we have this policy advisory board here with a lot of critical people in. So regarding our first project, it is in Ethiopia. We have started with a project this year in January, and it is a reforestation of 30-hectare area. So there will be more than 6,000 tons of CO2 sequestered in 30 years. And I think what is very special in this project that really local knowledge will be used. So there, before the project starts with planting trees, or one thing is planting trees, the other is to exclude animals from this area because they are grazing down and biting down all the tree leaves. So before starting implementing it physically, there's the project start with the local people where we talk to them in 1 year participatory process to find out which type of trees should be planted, which area should be used, how should compensation look like. So when bring their animals to other areas, or when they buy fodder for the animals, so how much should they get in the first years where you can take nothing from the trees and from the reforestation area. Later on, let's say 10 years from now, you can take some grass or some leaves to give fodder to the animals. So that is, I think, a very special use of the local knowledge and the participatory process. What it brings is also an increase in biodiversity. So there are many trees which will be planted. So not only, so here we will talk also to the local community that biodiversity isn't, and monocultures are really dangerous when you plant them. And of course, water and soil protection. So there's a lot of soil being washed out every year from the areas, especially from the hills. So that is a kind of the general picture of the project. So we started, as I said, with the initial project development. So finding the right partners. There were already some good collaborations ongoing from joint research in Ethiopia. Our project management partner is the Amhara Regional Agricultural Research Institute. So Amhara is the region where the project is planted, and it is a big organization. In total, they have more than 1,000 staff. So these steps were the first ones, and then we started with a participatory process, which is currently ongoing. Yes, and then we have to look for the costs for tree planting and monitoring, of course. But this will be mainly in next year, before the little rainy season starts in Ethiopia. So here's some pictures of the project. What was also been done is there was an initial project before this, where there was a PhD dissertation by an Ethiopian student who studied in our university, and he looked at the participatory process for a 5-hectare area, and whether this approach that we are then using could succeed. And there were quite good results. Here you see some pictures of the area. You see how the trees are growing, and also what was being done there was an initial carbon monitoring. So to see which plants are already there, what is the carbon stock, so the so-called baseline in the carbon projects world. Well, special project character, so there's now an official cooperation between our university and the research institute in Ethiopia. There was a visit by our Boko rector in February 2013. And what is really supporting us is that there are about 10 Ethiopian exchange students every year at our university. So they're both MSc students. There's a special field, mountain forestry, where many international students are coming and many Ethiopians are coming, and also some tree programs where they're participating. So this helps a lot to support the scientific basis of the project, and also some Austrian students go, of course, from time to time to Ethiopia for their PhD programs. Then also, yes, the initial research that was the basis for the PhD dissertation, and this is for our project. What is good is that this researcher who did a PhD here at the university, he is Ethiopian. He then, after the PhD, got back and is now working at the Amhara Research Institute. So it's really a good exchange, and he knows our thinking, we know a bit their thinking, so that is a good exchange. And also a benefit is that the area where the project is situated, so North Gondar, is a key area of the Austrian Development Corporation. So we can have some cross benefits with the Development Corporation, also with the Austrian Development Bank, and also one of the advisory board members is from CARE International, and CARE has also, or is also implementing projects in Ethiopia. So there we have a good view about the whole situation, and it is since years a key research area of our university itself. So the current project status is that there was this in 2009 to 2011 this pilot project where this PhD was implemented and finalized and this test was successful, let's say, and in 2012 the real project development of our carbon offsetting project started. Then in February 2013 we gave the official start of the project with the visit of our rector in Ethiopia. He was not only there for our project, it was a longer journey where he also did other cooperations with the university there. So it was not, and he also didn't fly on our project budget. So this was kind of a more broad visit from him, which yes, which supported our project, of course. Then in May we started with a participatory process in 2 communities. So in total there were 250 participants. There are 2 villages, Ambober and Voine, where the farmer meetings had been. And now in November the second phase of the village-wide meetings had been performed. So they did a participatory rural appraisal. So they were discussing about the current status of land, the trees that should be planted, etc. In May we then look forward to conclude this process, and then in summer the reforestation will begin. There are already some questions. Maybe we can talk. So Ruth asked, she missed it out, but how do you ensure that the carbon savings are secure for more than 100 years? Yes, that is, I think, a problem in every carbon project. In the big projects, you have the opportunity to look at insurances. They might insure you the amount of carbon, but normally they are insuring only the value of trees. So in our cases, that we are having not only these 30 hectare on one side, so there are different sites where this will be planted. So 5 hectares in this village, 5 in this, and so on. So that in case one of the areas will be destroyed by fire, or if people are getting in and cutting all trees down or part of it, there will be not the whole project being destroyed. Also, we think, or the research has shown that when you have a good participatory process, the people really see that as their project. So the idea is that they define their own rules happening if somebody from the village breaks the rules. So how much does he has to pay, etc. And we do not do well if the people from the area do not want to have the project not implemented. So this is of course also one possible outcome of the participatory process. So only if we see a strong commitment from the community, then we will implement it. And this gives us a good feeling that the carbon savings should be secured. We were looking also at insurances, but for these small projects, the costs they're not insuring these small projects. So here we cannot insure it. Adam, I don't know if you have, if I have missed out one of the our disaster management plan ideas.
No, I think that's. I think you covered it. Maybe I'll just sort of summarize, and we'll see whether any other questions come in. Sort of just to go over this last slide. Now, I think we always make, and discussions that we're constantly having on the university level, is that it's absolutely crucial that offsetting is always the last stage in sort of a emission reduction process, and comes after activities to actively avoid and reduce carbon emissions. So at the university we're undertaking a whole bunch of different activities, including this project, to try and raise awareness and so on and so forth. And really saying, you know, carbon offsetting needs an end of pipe sort of issue. What we do think is that we believe that projects such as this overall co-benefits and can make a positive contribution to local ecology, and also this issue of adaptation to climate change in terms of the amount of sort of forest cover needed in sub-Saharan African countries, particularly when you know the effects of climate change really start to be felt. And we need to obviously be sure that carbon offset projects really reduce CO2 in a clear and transparent manner, and also provide some of the co-benefits that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Also, what one thing got in my mind of our disaster management plan. So we were we will sell 6,000 tons of carbon in this project. However, the area is sequestering this. So in case something falls out, or we have a certain buffer, and we are also in addition to this not selling 15% of the 6,000 tons. So when you look at the voluntary carbon standard, they are also advising and that a buffer needs to be established in order to secure the risks. What the other approach would have been, like has been tried in the CFCR, and as some of you probably know, is that you only issue temporary certificates. However, that was really complicated for all carbon projects. Yes, so in summary, we are well aware of the ambivalence surrounding of carbon offsetting. As Adam said, it's the last chance. the last stage. However, I believe that this also provides a possibility to overcome our economic problems, and when you look at the economic theory, how to include external costs, that is a good opportunity which needs to be refined, which of course must get better. But I also believe that the carbon market is really fastly learning and improving. So yeah, that is, I think, what can be said from our presentation and our project. So there's many more. We also have it on our website in case you're interested, how we did the carbon calculations of the area. So growth rates of trees, we assumed how the participatory process is working, how we implement the monitoring. So please feel free to go on the website. I will later type it in the chat, and also of course ask us when there's some more questions from your side. So I think we could have a short Q&A session about the project itself, both by the chat but also you're invited to ask some questions and to raise your hands, and so that we can discuss, which is probably a bit faster than typing everything in the chat. So I have some questions from your side regarding the project and carbon offsetting in general. Maybe we take one question from the chat. So Ruth asked how the credits are traded and can you buy them online? They are not traded, so they are only for clients who can use them for carbon neutral products, or for students, professors, and staff who want to offset their flights. So they're not traded, and you can buy them online. So it's not really a carbon like you can imagine it from the European trading scheme. It's a certificate that you're getting from us. You paid the equivalent of 25 euros per ton for reducing or for offsetting your emissions. Yes, Kirchhoff asked, we have mentioned atmosphere in our research project. What do you think about it in terms of its standards? Well, as we see it, atmosphere and the Swiss compensation system, My Climate, they have the best standards. So they're really looking deeply at the project. They have many so-called gold standard projects. So the WWF and other NGOs developed environmental and social standards for their. So atmosphere has, if not all, mainly gold standard projects. So yes, that is a good carbon compensation system, and kind of our big brother, where we're always looking regarding their innovations and how they are taking the things. But the difference between atmosphere and ourselves is that we're not a trader of certificates. So atmosphere is just looking at projects, at good projects, and buying carbon credits from and selling them to end consumers. In our case, it's that we are both. We are having this compensation system, but we are also a developer. Maybe one word regarding project development. It's not done by Adam and myself. It is done by professors and staff who are working in this particular field. So this project is implemented by the Institute of Silviculture at our university, and even more, the university has created a platform, a center for all scientists who are working in developing countries, and they have given themselves ethic codex, how they want to work with with research partners in developing countries, how they are research type they will do, what they're not doing. So this project is also part of the so-called CDR, so which is our development research center at the university. Stuart asked, I just wonder about the psychology of this for some people, that if this is available to people, then they will choose to do so rather than change behavior, despite the point that you make that it should be the last choice. Yes, I think that is a good and common argument when it comes to carbon offsetting. And as Adam mentioned before, so we are really communicating and working to demonstrate that this is an end of pipe, let's say, opportunity, but that universities and people who want to use it should first look at the opportunities, not to fly, for example. One thing, when you click on or when you type in flights from Vienna, for example, to Munich, or other flights which are less than 800 kilometers in our compensation system, and when you want to offset them, you will first, before you have the opportunity to offset them, you find a big sign, sorry, wouldn't it be better to take the train in this ride, and so you can get to the night trains and the train portal of the Austrian Airlines. But still, we have to work on this communication strategy. It's yeah, of course.
I'd like to pick up a couple of more questions that have come in, maybe briefly, Tobias, because it's the easier one to answer. Yes, you can just use the system and go right ahead. And then maybe the question from Erica: do you think 25 euros per ton is high enough? I usually think that anything below about 100 per ton gives an unrealistic idea of how easy it is to offset. I think that's a good point, and I think if you look at the issue, say, for example, the EU emissions trading scheme, then obviously the price per ton of certificates in that framework has been far too low to have any effect. I think, and please feel free to come in on this. Again, I think it's probably, one can probably argue about the price until the cows come home, but to be quite honest, we've university, and what we've basically done is to calculate this price, is that, I mean, the university pays Dominic's and my wages normally, so all of our work isn't even calculated into the cost of the certificate. So we've just basically divided the project costs by the amount of sequestered tons minus the buffer and the insurance and so on we were talking about, and then come out with a price of 25 per ton. And we've already had you know, people come back and saying, well, that's too much and whatever. And the question is, you know, where do you get a level of engagement? Obviously, sort of bearing in mind, and I can't stress this enough, that we're telling people this has got to be the last step in a chain of actually reducing your carbon footprint beforehand, of actually getting them engaged on the issue or not. And I think it's a difficult question. I don't know, Erica, whether you want to come in on that. Are there any more questions?
Maybe also on the pricing. So we choose that the first project, this type of afforestation project, as it gets, well, this is kind of a medium price project. Solar PV is would also nice project type, but here the project costs are are really high, and then you end up with more than 100 per ton. So and here we then are currently looking at the second and third project opportunity, and these discussions we also have internally. One question from Tobias, who asked, is there any way people outside of BOKU access and offset your compensation program? Yes, so it's open to everybody in Europe and worldwide.
And maybe to plans there, or whether we have plans to develop more similar schemes. Yes, we're actually in the process of doing so. So we're constantly sort of looking and also asking within the university whether there's similar projects that obviously meet all the criteria which we described earlier. And we actually have a project, and this ties in nicely with Erica's question, also in Ethiopia at the moment, which is conducted by the Institute of Waste Management together with the city of Addis Ababa and a local university, on actually so up till now in the city they have essentially no waste management whatsoever. Everything is just dumped on a big heap, and studies show that over 10% of the waste is actually organic waste and could be composted, and quite apart from that is emitting large amounts of methane. So they're basically on a sort of very small scale level, giving employment opportunities to local people to collect and also separate the rubbish, the organic waste, thereby also obviously avoiding the methane emissions, and then using that compost for regional agriculture in and around the city. And sort of one of the issues we've had there, even though it's a project we're sort of all very fond of and we would like to take, is that at the moment we're looking at costs of sort of 70 to 80 euros per ton to actually realize it. And in this, and maybe just to continue with the kind of that we're trying to take sort of different views of the issue and this whole sort of discussion. We've had sort of looked at maybe different models whereby people can either offset in a project like that where you sell it as it has multiple co-benefits. So if you support a project like this, then the ton costs 70 or 60 or 70 euros. The question is whether you actually then find people who support the project.
Mm. But the idea would also to offer different projects at different prices, and then also we get a good view what people are able or are comfortable to pay for a project. We heard from several students that 25 euro is really high, and they were asking whether we can also make just partly compensation, so let's say only 25% or 50%. But there we decided no, either totally or nothing. So because otherwise you're getting into this mind of just doing a little bit and having the bad conscience away. But maybe one of the comments from Stuart. So whether it's also promoted to other organizations and countries. Other countries not yet. Other countries would be. So I have in mind to also promote it in Ethiopia. So we heard that there are activities such as breweries, etc. So that would be a nice cooperation also on this side. So this is what we are thinking to implement in the future. Regarding other organizations, Austria, yes. So the majority of our of the income for the project is currently coming from outside organizations. So it wasn't easy to promote it at our own university. We then kind of forced them because look, we have to do from our side as well a big sign that we are compensating, because people from outside were compensating. Also, it was an idea of our rector to implement the scheme, and but he was not promoting enough so that scientists did compensate. But then when outside companies started to offset, for example, the Austrian Development Agency, one of our advisory board members, they were compensating the whole annual flights, and as you can imagine, a development corporation, several flights per year. And then there were different paper companies, printing companies who are offsetting flights. And we're now also working together with the Association of Prints. We're quite happy to see that they can offer to their printing members, printing factory members, that that they can really have a strong sign in terms of sustainability of green prints, because often now things are printed in China or in other countries, but it's often that China is printing for Austrian companies or for European companies, and so when there's a company who wants to really have a green printing product, so they can also go for carbon neutral print.
But to take up Ruth's question, how much traveling and or flying is involved to administer the project? Essentially, what we're trying to do is keep that to basically zero. So anyone who's going from our university makes sure that so any work they're doing in the framework of this project is done when they're actually in the country for another project. So there's actually no sort of direct flights or flights directly attributed to the project itself. And then obviously we're, as much of the work as is possible is actually in the hands of the local research institute. So all the sort of the monitoring, so on, is going to be done there to obviously keep that to a minimum.
Maybe what would be interesting also for the last 10 minutes of our session, to get your ideas where you see some improvements, where you have ideas to come up on the project development side, and also on the carbon compensation scheme side. Probably also to approach more to the scientists, which is not easy. In Austria, there's when it comes to research funding, so there you can they pay your flights, but carbon compensation is not paid by all, or it was not paid by all research funding. Now we approached the first research fund, the Climate Research Fund, and they have now included it in, so you can also get a refund for travel costs, so the flights, and also for the compensation, also for train cost and compensation. So it's not only flight emissions, but car emissions. So and now we're trying to approach the other research funds that they should do the same. Hopefully we will succeed. And also the joint program initiative, I forgot, they also have it in their program, that carbon offsetting can be refunded as projects. Yes, that is currently the case, and that is also the reason why many university assistants and professors are our own university didn't promote that people should not only compensate their flight, but should do real active reductions, so that they should compensate more than the carbon calculator gives results. So maybe 50%, then they could do something by themselves as well. What also sometimes comes as an argument from professors, well, you rating the flights, so that you well, as you know, the flight emissions are now part of the European trading scheme. However, the revenues of the certificates, of the selling of the certificates, is only going to a minor share to really climate reduction projects. So the majority, more than 90%, as I read, is going to the normal EU budget. So there are no, well, CO2 reductions occur.
So maybe if there's no more questions, then we'll start maybe just summarizing, Dominic.
Yes, thank you very much for your questions. We actually thought to have this pro and con dialogue between Adam and myself, but actually many of the issues that the usual, let's say, ideas, concerns, pro and con arguments we now discussed with you directly in the questions. So yeah, in for summarizing, I would be happy if you also later on give us feedback on the carbon commitment for cooperation in one or the other. We're happy to discuss with you. So maybe we can, well, if you want to implement such a system at your own university or institution, we can give some hints if you want to well, implement ours or cooperate with us on the projects or on the carbon compensation scheme. We're also happy. We are seeing it as an innovative room which is opening, where we can, well, really try to also influence the carbon market in a positive way, so with really dedicated, good, sustainable projects. So I think, yeah, that is my my summary. Adam, you also want to give a short view?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'd like to say thank you, and I'm glad that we didn't have to, or that we didn't have our dialogue, because there's so much interaction. Really appreciate the questions and whatever, and I have a feeling that yeah, that sort of there's some positive sentiments towards that, and I think maybe to summarize, I think the point we tried to make, and which is very important, we can't say this often enough, that carbon offsetting, again, always needs to be an end of pipe solution, but the way we go about it and the type of projects that we fund are very, very important, and one of our, let's say, primary motivations with starting this project at university was, as you mentioned, Dominic, was actually to have a positive influence on the whole discussion surrounding the carbon market, surrounding carbon offsetting. And I think there's a number of models or ideas we've discussed today, such as you know, if you compensate, make sure you don't compensate, but you actively reduce by, say, for example, compensating double the amount that any action you're compensating for may emitted, and also look for projects which have a number of co-benefits on the ecological, but also on the social side. So the discussion is not so much or not only about carbon offsetting, but it's also really about true and sustainable development. I would say that's it from my side, and thank you very much to everyone for participating.
Okay. So Tobias also asked if there's anything published on the topic. Well, so far on the website you find everything. We do quarterly, so every 3 months we do an update for our clients when it comes to the development of the project. And we're currently working on a comprehensive project document where we include all carbon calculations, the monitoring plan, the approaches, and so on. It will be ready probably in December.
As Dominic said, there's already a lot of information on the website on a whole number of issues, but also sort of detailed information on the project and the issue of carbon offsetting. I've posted the website link in the chat there. Sorry, Dominic.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Okay. See you probably tomorrow at the next session for when Adam summarizes in the conference.
Yeah. So maybe just there's only a few of us left now, but yeah, it's been a great, very interesting week. That was actually the last sort of content-related session of the conference, if you will. And tomorrow, David and myself will be sort of summarizing what we've heard and what we've talked about this week. We'll have a few video highlights of some of the interesting issues and ideas that have come up, and also maybe look at developing a few visions to the future where we see research collaboration in a few years, and discuss possibilities for further collaboration. So we're going to have a quite sort of open and interactive session at 4 p.m. Central European time for the final session, and look forward to seeing you there and hope you can join us. Thank you, and good night.